So
Reg, what is the explanation for JPY and USD going the same direction?
Yeah, same question.
It was doing this a lot last year.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's have a look. Yeah, when we're looking at correlating pairs. So let's touch on this. Let's touch on correlating pairs. And to answer your question, Lola, of how are the US dollar and the Japanese yen, are they going to be positively correlating, even though we know they should be inversely correlating? Why are they positively correlating, and are they doing it right now? So obviously the examples we have here, AU and AJ. Let's bring it back to Candle's chart. I'm going to remove AJ from the equation. Right now, what I'm going to do is, if we bring on the dollar index, let's bring on the dollar index. Let's bring this bad boy on. Okay. Now, what do we want to do? Let's use our compare tool, and then let's put on Japanese yen, JXY, I believe. This is what we see. Let's go daily. So we can see quite clearly it does still inversely correlate. Now we know that because we know the correlation between the safe haven and the dollar index. But look at this. Let's just keep this as it is. Look at this area here. Look at that. All my analysis comes on there. Oh dear. Okay. Do you see this whole section there kind of moving in the same direction?
Mm-hmm.
So this, I believe, is what you're referring to, Ola, where actually the dollar index is moving down, and you can see that the yen is also moving down as well. So this is where they were positively correlating. If you look at the things on a grand scheme, look at the grand scheme of things here. I will ask you, Ola, is the positive correlation quite common, or is it quite rare?
It's more rare than it is common.
It's more rare. So would we say that's an anomaly? Because I'm sure myself and other traders have had this conversation repeatedly over the last few years.
We have, yeah.
We have. So are we saying that that these things happen like this? For example, look at this. This is a nice little upward movement here for the yen, but also for the dollar index. Let me change it back to line chart, a bit more of a clearer move. So they were actually positively correlating. So it's more of an anomaly than actually set in stone. We've got it here as well. Look at the peak here, the peak of the dollar index, the peak of the Japanese yen, moving the same in the same sort of form. But in the overall picture, looking at things objectively, they are moving inverse. I think what it comes down to is sometimes we can't say that from now on into infinity and beyond that the yen and the dollar are going to be positively correlating. That's just naive to say. I think we would have to just move with the times. We have to expect that there will be situations like this where they move in conjunction with each other, and that's where we've got to be smart. So from what we're looking at today, when it comes to AU and when it comes to AJ, and we see that correlation work positively. And then when we look at the dollar index, and that dollar index bias for that works, the gold bias for it works, that's where everything marries together, But when we broke everything down and we looked at AJ in comparison, let's bring it up. When we looked at AJ and how that correlates to dollar index, we know that this actually doesn't work. Yeah, Avi said that this does not work with this. Yeah, we've also just had a look at Australian dollar. Is there anything substantial that's going to be moving this in our favor at the minute? No, apart from the Japanese yen early morning Tuesday. So it's a tough one. We could see a similar situation where they both move positively.
Yeah. Could we look, if you wanted to come up with a theory as to why that happens? Obviously, it's related to, because obviously it's a safe, the yen, Japanese yen is a safe haven. Obviously, if there's dollar weakness and people don't feel that the yen is strong at that particular time, maybe there's a fundamental issue with the Japanese economy. Maybe people are not comfortable with moving their money into the yen. So, maybe that could be an explanation.
What's interesting, and that's a really good question there, and Tesh, I'll get to you in a moment, is that we know that we have seen a good amount of bullish strength with the dollar index over the last few weeks. Yeah, fantastic FOMC with Jerome Powell really batting off all these questions and coming off Trump's. We also know, do you remember a few weeks ago when we had our fundamental report? And what did anyone remember what we specifically said about China and Asia as a whole? Does anyone remember what we said? Yeah, what they were really struggling with.
COVID.
Yes, so they were struggling to really mass get out these vaccinations, right? They were struggling. So is that positive or negative for that economy?
Negative.
It's negative. It's not good, is it? Right? And then so do you feel you'd put your money in a safe haven that actually at the moment is quite unreliable and you'd put it a little bit more safer? Yeah, people would naturally take their money out and they'll move it somewhere a lot safer. Hence why you've seen people put money back into dollar index, and dollar index is doing what dollar index used to do many years ago. Yeah, and that's why we're getting this nice dollar index push there. Tesh?
So I was going to ask if obviously we've got different safe havens versus so whatever if they want to take money out of the USD. So you've got gold, you've got yen, Swiss franc, and then you've got the stocks, etc. So is it a case of where you may see the yen and the DXY positively correlating? It's because that money's being used elsewhere, so in the franc and stuff like that, or is it?
If you're taking money out of the Japanese yen, Tesh, you're taking money out as investors, as institutions. What direction is that going to go now?
Down.
It's going to go down, right? If you're taking money out the dollar index, same thing. Where's that going to go?
Down.
Yeah, right. So something has to. They're putting the money somewhere. They're putting the money. So at the moment, we know S&P is doing well. So money's going back into stocks. That's why you're going to get the positive correlation there, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So that answers the question. That's why you get the positive, because you're right. Money is being taken from there, put somewhere else, and so they naturally both going to positively correlate. Ola, does that make sense as well?
It does.
Sunny?
Do you know those periods that you highlighted? Aren't those times that we've discussed like periods of decoupling around some of the traditional assets because Bitcoin's come into the frame, and then it's sort of presented itself as another asset class? No.
So I don't think decoupling is happening just yet. I think that we are seeing glimpses of it. I think we've seen it in cryptocurrency where certain alts have had better weeks or months than others. And you've seen it with obviously safe havens with the Swiss franc and the Japanese yen in conjunction with the dollar index. But what always happens, it always seems to go back to what it knows.
Okay.
So you've seen the correction happen in Bitcoin, and all of a sudden, all the decoupling gets thrown out the window, and everyone's following Bitcoin again. All of us following Bitcoin. Yeah, same thing. And again, we just looked at the correlating between the Japanese yen and dollar index. Actually, they're short-term correlating and long-term inversely correlating. So eventually, it kind of goes back to what it knows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries.